This program features live coverage of an African safari and may include animal kills and carcasses. Viewer discretion is advised.
Well, as has become a fairly commonplace thing these days, we begin our morning with some spotty little cat behind a bush. It is Hosana once again that is down at the dam, and he really is becoming a regular feature. Touch wood, because we don't want a situation where he is going to disappear, but it really is very, very nice to have him kind of around the pan, and we think the day that he's not at the pan, we're all going to have probably a bit of a heavy heart. But anyway, here he comes. He's coming kind of out and about, and I know that we're supposed to do a little bit of housekeeping and introduce ourselves and everything like that, but it's just such a beautiful shot of him up on the top of this ledge that I thought we'd have a little look before we do all of that. Now, we are live and interactive from South Africa, and so it means that we would love to hear from all of you. Any comments or questions that you may have would be much appreciated. It's a perfect start to our morning. Look how beautiful that is. That is a typical winter leopard pose, and so he has provided us with so much in the last week. It's been absolutely spectacular. So thoroughly enjoying having Hosana around. It really has been very pleasant. Now, he was lying down and having a little rest near the pan, and then unfortunately for him, a few hyenas arrived, and they kind of chased him from where he was initially sitting, and he's actually watching another hyena coming down. That's what he's busy looking at. There's another hyena that's coming straight down from in front of me. They're walking in our direction. Now, there's no food that we know of around here, but the hyenas obviously have been coming past here every day, because there's been the situation where Hosana has been so successful around this pan over the course of the last sort of 10 days that there's been 2 meals for these hyenas to be able to go and find, and so that's why they probably come and check here. It's also where water is. Hosana's just slinking away quickly. He's decided that he's going to try and just get out of here before the hyenas get too close. Look at that. How cool is that? Hello, boy. He really is a beautiful cat. Now, curiosity is going to get the better of him. He's going to sit in a place where he can actually watch where this hyena is going to go, because he doesn't want to lose sight of the hyena in case the hyena kind of catches him unawares. And so he's positioned himself right behind a little bank. Look at him, look at him. What are you doing, you silly boy? You can't play with the hyenas. They're going to hurt you. He really is another story. Look at this. It's like a game of hide and seek with him. Well done, Hosana. You hid away and they didn't see you. You're very clever. How cool is that? You're a silly boy, but a clever one. What a magic start to our morning. It doesn't really get much better. That's one thing about Hosana, and why I think he's just such a special part of things, is that he's just such a character. He always seems like he's up to something and always doing all kinds of different things. Now, I suppose it is time that I should introduce myself and tell you who's actually speaking to all of you. It's been a bit of a interesting sort of start. There's been lots happening. Anyway, my name is Tristan. On camera I've got David once again, and so like I said, it's a very warm welcome to all of you, and hopefully it's going to be a busy morning. If this is anything to go by, we should be in for an absolute treat this morning. We should have a really wonderful time. There was lots of different things around during the course of the night, and thank you to all of you that did participate and did let us know on Twitter about all the different sounds that you heard. So I know that there was at least 2 different leopards calling last night. We heard a female around Gallego side, and then a male down towards the Mulwati, and then we had a situation where there was also lions calling as well. So lots of promise this morning. Hopefully we will be able to get things right, and we'll get more than just Hosana. I know we're being greedy by saying that, but in a good run at the moment, I will enjoy it and try and get the best out of it as possible. Very cool, though. Right, well, it's been a morning with DC. Disastrous. So to do that, let's send across to Steve, and he's going to be looking. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to my side of the game drive. How marvelous is it that Hosana is once again just displaying himself for us there. What a fantastic fellow. I think he's going to need an agent with all the publicity he's getting. Well, anyway, my name is Steve Falconbridge. I'm joined on camera by Craig, and we are out looking for all sorts of tracks. There were male leopards calling, there were female leopards calling, there was apparently the Unkelhumas south, so I'm now sort of on the western side, going to go down to some familiar areas that I see the Unkelhumas coming in and see if we can get them. I think with Craig on board, we have got a good chance of finding lions. So that is my opportunity now for the morning. We've got direction with Sydney on foot as well. They're going to be following up on things as well. I'm not sure exactly what at the moment, but as Tristan says, there's lots and lots going on. He's going to be sitting with Hosana for the next little while, so the whole concession is all mine. Very exciting. We're going to move around and see what we can find. Don't forget, I'm sure Tristan has already informed you to send your questions to the hashtag SafariLive, and we only have 2 hours this morning, so I am going to promise you that I'm going to be doing the Medicinal Mondays this afternoon on a game walk, bushwalk. Okay, copied. Very good. Hopefully I can find a little bit more of the plant part that I wanted. I heard a story of a tree pushed over that might be showing me the roots that I needed, and I wasn't going to damage a tree on my own just to get its roots, and I think I might be finding one coming up in a little while. Well, while we continue searching, Sydney is out on foot and he would like to say good morning.
Good morning to you all. Yes, I am Sydney. This is the beginning of the guided walk, and welcome. I am traveling with Senzo, my camera operator this morning, and I hope you're all going to enjoy a lot of our natural environment there outside. My plan for this morning is quite very easy. The guided walks, they are not the same as game drives, so I will be concentrating on quite a lot of tiny little things that we always miss while we're driving out looking for the big animals. So my plan is to go to the western side of the game reserve and try to see if I can find something interesting this morning. The grass is still very wet at the moment. There's quite a lot of mist, and there's quite a lot of dew as well here hanging by the trees. We're going to get wet a little bit this morning on this guided walk until the sun comes out and dry out these kind of... That is quite a very beautiful sun trying to come out.
Well, who can help stopping and looking at the sun rising? It's an unstoppable force, a beautiful one at that, the creation of all life on earth. A moment to reflect on one's day. Those of you who are probably further west in the world than we are, probably reflecting on one's evening. We have got now the entire day ahead of us. And what are we going to achieve today? Good things? Let all the negativity stay behind? As the sun sets in the evening, it should wash away all the negativity, and then the rising in the morning, a new day, a new dawn, new possibilities. Be grateful for all the little things we have. It's a moment to reflect and take a deep breath. Magnificent marula tree giving birth to the sun. Marvelous shot, Craigo. Go away birds in the distance. Franklin's waking up. We are busy reading the Bushveld newspaper of the morning, the tracks on the ground. See what we might be able to find as the light now covers over the landscape. It is still cool enough for animals to be moving, of the predatory kind, and we are hoping we might get to find you something. Well, at least there is one character already found this morning, but let's go find our own. We're coming up to the area of Balanites and Zoe's, kind of a very nice junction. This is an area that I've often had the Unkuhuma prides coming in, because that takes us west and that takes us south. So it's kind of like quite an important sort of central junction for us, and a very important place if you're tracking animals to sort of spend a moment to see, because they often will find these junctions themselves and use them for their own movement. and nice and open sandy patches. It's not easy to miss a leopard or lion track on a big open spot like that. And barring that, you just move over to the next big junction and game path. The animals use these game paths just like we use them as roads. They facilitate quite easy movement, stealthy movement, fast movement. And we've seen that often. Even if any of you are watching the lion hunt on the drone the other evening, you could see how they were following each other. Okay, well, there's some elephant tracks, not too fresh. Well, anyway, while we continue on in our search, Sydney's got something to show you.
It's quite a lovely morning. The sunrise is amazing. I can see there as well as the mist. This is looking very much African. Let's just enjoy the sunrise. I will be with you just now. Oh, the sun comes out very fast. Look now, it's going high very quickly, but it's still looking very good. So some of the animals are going to start coming out now in order to enjoy the sun. I am right here on top of the termite mound. I can hear that things are happening under the ground. So there is quite a lot of activities taking place. There's even evidence here on the ground showing that there are some other animals staying here. So this is where the mongoose are staying. And I've just seen two now running away from the termite mound. They're kind of a Bernard mongoose. They are very much social. They are very much gregarious. It might be quite a lot of them here under the ground. So those kind of animals, by this time of the morning, soon as the sun comes out, when it's getting warm enough, you will see them now coming out, sitting here, just basking the sun. So I don't want to disturb them, because I saw two of them already picked up my presence and they just came out and ran away. So what I'm going to do now is I am going to give them a chance. I'm going to leave here now. I wasn't aware that someone is sleeping here at the moment. So, World Happy, the best experience I have encountered in Djuma Game Reserve, it was when I came across the 3 leopards as well as 2 lions, and 2 leopards was fighting on the same day, same sighting. That to me was phenomenal, and I will never forget about that experience. But I'm still hoping to come across other interesting things, because here, the animals such as cats, their activities are too much and they are very much interesting every day. Same animals, but displaying completely different activities. So I'm just trying here to pick up what is happening at the moment, because when it's still very early like this is when we can easily hear what is happening in the bush. So sometimes there's quite a lot of indications we can get from the bush. We can hear the trees breaking down if the elephants are nearby. We can hear the birds giving alarm calls. We can also hear some of the animals such as squirrels giving some of their alarm calls as well. So I normally prefer to be guided by those kind of calls in order to see what's happening by this time of the morning. So now I'm just gonna go further east. Let's see what my other colleagues are doing on the other side. I am not alone out at the moment.
Thank you, Sydney. Well, this is a tree that I heard was pushed over a leadwood tree pushed over by, no doubt, an elephant, and I've gone and harvested some of the exposed roots that the elephants have provided for me, and they actually have broken a few of these out themselves. So that was eaten and broken off, and I broke that off there. Look how powerful I am. I'm so strong. I'm going to harvest this bark, and I'm going to use it this afternoon. Nice, fresh bark harvested from the site of elephant damage on a leadwood tree, sustainably in the African wilderness, because I took some of the roots that were already exposed in there. They're going to desiccate and they're going to die. So that is my medicinals for this afternoon. Nice and fresh and sustainable and organically grown. Naturally harvested. Thanks, Craigo. Onwards we go. Quite excited about that. I didn't think I was going to have any roots. Oh, Justin, you want to know my favorite season in a while? Well, I'm going to get Craig to just show you that landscape over there with the fog and the mist in the distance. And this is my favorite season by far. I don't know, the days are cooler. The vegetation is brown, which makes it easier to find animals. And you often get these little misty, foggy banks. If any of you were watching the show yesterday morning, we opened up on the drone, and Seb was sort of detailing the landscape with the drone, and it was just absolutely spectacular. You know, everything looks kind of dead, but as soon as there's some rain, everything just bounces back to life. The beauty of the change in the seasons out here is what keeps it interesting. I mean, I enjoy all the seasons, to be honest, but I enjoy this time of year the most. I don't mind the cold too much as long as I've got layers. In the summertime, the heat, I don't mind it too much, but it's very hard to cool down in the heat of the summer. And finding animals is very, very difficult. The thing about summer that I do enjoy is the fact that there are lots and lots of birds. It's not as many birds this time of year, but there's something about the dust in the atmosphere that makes the sunrises and sunsets in the winter spectacular. Gorgeous. Well, that is the heart of Djuma that we're looking at. The Umulwati drainage system running through the middle, the depression, and the cold air sinking in there. That's what happens as the sun rises. It pushes the air down, as you can see what's happening over there. So Tristan is not far away from that area. He's sitting in the coolness of the landscape, and we are sitting up here plumb on the top where it is nice and comfortable. Indeed, we're going to continue on. We're heading directly south now. This is a road that if the Unkelhumas had come in from the south, very likely they would have come on. We often had them moving along this road up towards the sort of central quarantine areas. Well, it seems like Tristan has managed to sort out his gremlins, and he is still with the little chief.
Yes, I'm not sure what happened there, Steve, but suffered a gremlin attack, well, being stationary, which is quite unusual. But anyway, we are back with you, which is good news, and little Hosanna has not really done very much since you last saw him. He kind of walked across the dam, he stalked some doves for about 2 seconds, realized that they weren't going to be really much use to him in terms of a food item, and then wandered off and went to the toilet, which was delightful. His scent of that was absolutely amazing. Certainly woke us up this morning, and then now he's found himself a little position in the grass. He's just grooming himself before I think he's going to end up just having a really good nap. So yeah, I think Hosanna's really worked out how to go about spending his time here at the dam. I think he's realized that if he gets into these longer grass areas, then it's much harder for most of the animals to even pick him up at all. And so he can go about hunting and moving around here fairly unnoticed by just sticking in these dry grass sections where he camouflages so well. So every time we kind of find him and he's not actively hunting, he finds these little long grass patches where he goes and lies in, and that's where he spends the majority of his day until such time as animals come down and he can then try and hunt them. But it's absolutely amazing to kind of think that he hasn't moved from here in, how many days are we now? 6 days, I think, since he moved. So it's really quite phenomenal. It's a strange thing because I've never really actually seen a leopard stay at one particular water point for as long as what Hosanna is now. Normally, they do it, they make a kill, and then they'll go on a bit of a walk around before they then come back to that area. But I suppose with Hosanna, it's a territorial individual, so he doesn't actually have to go anywhere to go and mark territory or to go and kind of seek out any intruders or anything like that. He can just be perfectly content to sit at a certain point and watch all kinds of things come down. He's obviously been very successful in finding food here, and so he's getting meals. He's got access to water, and well, he's not really being pushed by any other leopards, so it seems like the perfect place for him just to actually spend his day and go about his business. So I wonder how long it's going to last for. It's going to be really interesting to see how many days he ends up staying in this particular section. Wild Earth Girl, I mean, I don't know. I suppose yes, to a degree. They probably recognize certain sounds. I mean, they highly intelligent animals when it comes to those kind of things, and highly sensitive to sounds and different noises that are made. And so I suppose over time maybe they recognize tones and pitches. Whether they associate that with anything, I'm not quite sure. Or whether any tone that comes from these vehicles is just considered the same, I really don't know. But it's a situation where I don't think, given how sensitive their ears can be, I don't think there's that they wouldn't be able to differentiate in terms of a tone and a pitch that they're hearing very close to them. You must remember that we spend a long time in quite close proximity. I mean, just now Hosanna was literally on the front of the car walking past us, and so you have a situation where they do spend a lot of time very close, and so they must be able to hear us. If they can hear things like impalas very, very far away walking through the grass, or even little mice and things like that, then they certainly can hear us talking at the level that we do, as close as we do to them. So, I mean, yeah, I don't know if he, like I say, associates anything with that voice that he hears, but he definitely probably can pick up that there are different voices that are around and different tones and pitches. And the reason why I say leopards probably can do it, or animals in general, is that there used to be a rhino that we used to have in the southern parts of the reserve, and it had a particular disdain for one of the guides, and what that guide did to him, I'm not quite sure, but it was amazing. If that guide drove in and made any sort of talking sound, the mixture of his car, and he had a different car to the rest of us that were from the same lodge. His was a slightly different model, and so I'm pretty sure that rhino could recognize the difference in the tone of that engine as well as his voice, because any time he drove anywhere near that rhino, the rhino would go from completely relaxed to this hooligan that used to chase him around and just try and put his horn through the car every time. So it's definitely a situation where I think animals do pick up different sounds, and particularly sounds that of us speaking. But like I say, whether they associate that with any different feelings, I'm not sure at all. But isn't he just looking so fantastic? That's the one thing about Hosanna, is his return. He is looking in as good a condition as ever, and to think that at a year-old we were worried as to whether or not he'd be able to hunt and get by, but as you can see, he's really done incredibly well, and he's looking seriously good. Anyway, we'll spend some more time with Hosanna this morning. I want to see what he gets up to. I think he's going to probably have a bit of a nap. But while we wait and see what he's going to do, let's send you back across to Steve and see what updates he's got for us.
I've got something very much interesting here on the ground. I've got some droppings and some uric acid markings here. So these droppings, they are probably from the buffaloes. But it was a female buffalo. Why I am saying it's a female buffalo? Because I can see that the droppings as well as this urine, they are all at the same place. If you think about a male buffalo, there is quite a big gap between the urinary organ as well as the excretory organ for the droppings. So this one, it was a female. So now I am going to tell you one of the interesting stories. And this story, I have done it. As vendors, we have got a very interesting exercise we've got to believe on this kind of urine from the animals such as buffaloes and cattle. So what I used to do while I was still very young is that we go and we collect this urine from the animal. And in order to learn how to flay it, like you come and you take that and you must drink. You must have to gargle it. And you must then gargle it. Some of them you're going to drink and some you're going to spit. And you don't have to spit everything. In order to spit the last bits, you must have to do it in the form of a flay. And we believe that that quickens you to learn how to flay it. And it works. That is how I learned how to flay it. Today, my flay is nice and clear. This is how I learned. So I learned from the urine from the animals. So now I'm going to carry on and see what I'm going to find next. So this area where I am, I have seen there's quite a lot of tiny little things to share with you this morning. So Senzo, let's go this side. So this side is where I want to do my search. Not very much easy to see what's happening here. The grass is nice and tall, but it's very good to be in the area like this. So now, while I'm looking for these little insects, we can check what my other colleagues are doing on the other side.
Thanks, Sydney. Good luck finding the insects. Well, we are on our southern boundary now. This is the fire break. Gowrie Main is just there. The Unkuhumas were reportedly somewhere to the south, and potentially they might pop up into our property this morning, or they might have already done so. Important to check these roads. If they've obviously crossed, we will see them. It's not difficult to see the tracks of 11 lions. There is an enormous amount of hyena activity up and down this boundary. They also check the boundaries as well. Don't know why exactly. Maybe it is the boundary of their own choosing. But as I said, animals like to use these roads because it's very easy to run along. Facilitates very fast movement, and hyenas aren't really looking for stealth movement. They're just looking for fast movement. And yes, they can run very quickly through the bushes, but take away the branches and the grasses and you can move even quicker. And they know that our leopard also like to use the roads, so they follow them along these roads with their noses. What was that? I just heard an update. Sorry, Elvis, for Steve? I think I just heard something on the radio. Sorry, Megs. I didn't quite hear your question. I just heard something I want to quickly ask. Elvis for Steve? Guys are chatting. They're chatting now. I'll get onto the radio shortly. Elvis for Steve? Good morning. Sorry, what was your update there? Okay, Kobe, thanks very much. Oh, that was almost exciting. As Quarantine is on the radio, but he's right up on the Buvuzuk side. I misheard it. That would have been exciting. We got some information yesterday about Quarantine being on Chitwa, but probably a few days old, or the photos were taken somewhere where Chitwa guides can traverse, so he wasn't around there yesterday. Sorry, Megs, you can go again with the question. I'm sorry I didn't answer it before. Kristen, no, it's not possible for an area to have more predators than prey. What happens is you get a natural spike or balance of the population. So you get these booms in prey animal sort of population density. They go up and then they get controlled by predators. And you'll actually see, if I kind of demonstrate with my hands, you'll see the prey animals will go up and the predators will delayed go up. And if there's an enormous crash in prey, they will crash, and then invariably the predators will crash after them, purely because there's not enough food to feed their youngsters. So you'll see a sort of a slow increase in both, and the predators will always be behind the prey. They can never outcompete the prey. That would just lead to their extinction. We are the only predator in the world that does that makes animals extinct. No other predators naturally do that. They have a natural symbiosis with the environment. They are competitive. They do feed on their prey, but once prey becomes less available, the competition within the species for food increases, and the success of youngsters decreases, because if you have less food, it becomes very difficult for a mother to feed her youngsters. So she invariably abandons the youngsters at the expense of herself. As sad as that might sound, it is a natural process in the system. So there's never ever a need to control predators in a natural system. Obviously, the issue we have globally is the fact that we've got agriculture all over the place, and then we're providing livestock, and then the predators are seen as a threat to the livestock, so we eliminate them, which is a problem, because the predators were there first. It's in their natural environment, and the livestock that a lot of people are producing aren't well adept to preventing themselves being killed by predators. There's some really good success stories up in Namibia of the Anatolian sheepdogs. They're really, really big dogs that they look after sheep, and they get very well trained from a young age to imprint on the sheep, and they keep jackal and caracal away quite well. So they live with the herd. It's quite an expensive process to get them involved, but they live with the herd. And the thing that they don't do, the thing that sheep and goats and cattle always do when they see a predator, is they run away. And that is the worst thing you can do for a predator. Never ever run from a predator. And the sheepdog does not run. It looks at a predator, chases it, could actually even kill it. So the predators learn to avoid the sheepdogs, and they stay away from those herds. And it's working very, very well. Very, very well. And it's natural, because it's sort of mimicking the system of protection of the herd, and it's forcing the predators to focus more on indigenous prey items rather than on flocks and livestock. So there's some really good success stories up in Namibia. You should check it out. Okay, well, as we continue checking for tracks of any predators coming in, Tristan doesn't need to find tracks, because he's already still got the chief himself.
Indeed, Steve, although our little chief has probably decided that that's it for the day. He's going to have a proper rest now. I'm not surprised, given the fact that he's still got a full tummy, and, well, he's been a little busy this morning anyway, hasn't he? He's been around the pan, he's been watching things coming down to drink, he's had a little run-in with hyenas, and so I suppose he's deserved his little rest, hasn't he? He really kind of looks as though he's found himself the perfect spot to kind of spend the day. Also, the fact of the matter is he's not going to get any sun on him for quite some time. The sun is obviously rising from the eastern side, and so shadows will be on him for quite a long period. He's kind of tucked himself up right against the edge of a little thicket, and so, you know, I would imagine only probably in the next 3 hours or so he will actually get sun on him. So for now, I don't think we're going to see too much movement from our little boy. So, Linus, with leopards salivating when they interact with other leopards, it's probably due to the fact that they get an increase in adrenaline, and that's much like us. When we have that, we get a situation where we sweat a lot, and kind of our palms get sweaty. It's the same sort of thing. I would imagine that an adrenaline causes a release. It's probably an indication as well, a visual cue to the other leopards, that there is this hyped up sort of motion that they're going through at that point, and that they can indeed shows that they are, you know, in a situation where they realize that that other animal is there and it's causing this. But I would imagine it's a similar effect. It's just an adrenaline rush that causes this increased amount of saliva to be produced, and that then starts to drip down. And like I say, I'm pretty sure it will form some sort of a visual cue. Not only will the growling and hissing and carrying on as well happen, but you'll also have a situation where you'll get this kind of visual cue from the saliva dripping down itself. Now, so just thinking about it, actually, he was talking about other leopards and saliva and all these kind of things. I was actually just thinking now, I wonder which leopards were around last night, because I'm pretty sure the one vocalizing was a male, and I'm sure that's Tingana that's busy cruising around. He had actually, it was quite interesting, he spent his afternoon yesterday with Thandi and Tlalamba, and Tlalamba was being, well, her usual cheeky self, and was trying to sniff Tingana's tail and all kinds of nonsense, and Tingana wasn't really that impressed by it all. He showed his teeth a few times, but he didn't do anything to her. He just kind of potted about, and then they rested together the whole afternoon. So I'm pretty sure that's him coming back from Torchwood side. They were on Torchwood yesterday, and then he's now coming back up sort of towards this area. And then the female that was calling is an interesting one, because it could be Thandi. It's not impossible that Thandi was around, but I wonder if it maybe wasn't Shadulu or even possibly Kuchava. Now, it would be interesting if it was Kuchava, because she's way out of her territory, and generally when leopards are out of their territory, they don't make too much noise. But because she's mating, it could be a situation where she's calling like that in order to try and attack the attention of Tingana, who she's already heard calling, and then kind of close the gap between her and him. So it'll be interesting to see if that is the case, and if we do find them together. I would be very, very surprised if Kuchava is mating, that she doesn't then join up with both Quarantine and Tingana at some point and mate with them, given that her territory lies over the southern part of Djuma, Torchwood, Chitwa, Little Gari. The males that are dominant over those sections are Tingana and Quarantine, and potentially now this skittish male that we don't even know about. He's been seen far too regularly on the southern side, if it is the same male. This is all hypothetical, because without actually seeing who this male is, it could actually be anybody. It could be a different male that's new to the area. It could be, Gajima, I highly, highly, highly doubt, given that we have never seen Gajima really anywhere south of Twin Dam areas, and this particular male has been following Kuchava from south of Chitwa. So I hypothetically think that it's probably this male that has been around. He's been seen a few times. He's been seen around the Mulwati a few times. He's been seen on the nets, on vessels, on Little Gari. So he's a male that's very skittish, very shy, doesn't like to be seen at all. And so I think that would be the individual. That's my guess anyway, and that he's around a lot more than we're actually realizing at this stage. And maybe that's why Tingana is not pushing down onto Chitwa nearly as regularly as he used to, and he doesn't go into Little Gari on these massive forays like he used to. I remember when I first got to Wild Earth, Tingana used to disappear and used to be down on Hoffmans and vessels, Little Gari and nets. He used to go all over the place, whereas now it seems as though Djuma, Torchwood, a little bit of Chitwa towards the dam, and then back this side again. It's kind of where he's been spending time. And so maybe this other male that's so skittish is actually around more than we think, and that's the sort of, we find these male tracks and we assign them always to Hukumuri or Tingana, but you never know. Maybe it's him, and maybe that one that we had on the drone right in the beginning when we first started flying the drone with Steve and James could very well be that individual and not Gajima as first thought. So it's an interesting kind of thing. It will be nice if somebody can just get some sort of view of this leopard and we can kind of work out who it is exactly. The thing about Gajima is I feel sorry for him, because everybody who sees a skittish leopard, it's automatically Gajima. But, he can't be as many places as he's been seen, because he gets seen all over, from Manyaleti to Buffelshoek, Torchwood, Djuma, all the way in the west, south of us. So either he's got the biggest territory out of any leopard in this whole of the Sabi Sands, or there's a situation where obviously everybody sees skittish leopard and they're just throwing his name into the kind of in the basket. So it'll be interesting. I would like to see who this other leopard is. Like I say, it could be a new leopard to the area. It's very difficult to say, but hopefully there will be some sign of that individual. If he's mating with Kuchava and the two of them do come this way, then we should have a very real chance of finding them and maybe getting a glimpse of that individual. Anyway, we'll sit a little bit longer. I'm going to sit with Hosana probably a while longer, just see what happens if there's anything that comes down to drink. It's about the right time for things to make their way for water. And so while we do that, let's send you back across to Sydney, who I'm sure is loving his morning walk in the beautiful sunshine.
I'm just trying to see if I can show you something here. I have got one of the very much interesting and magical tree. This is a tree called a silver cluster leaf. A silver cluster leaf, the leaves, when they're not dry, during the summer season, and some of them now in the areas where there is still some water available, they are silver. So this tree is one of those trees we are using as medicines. You can come and collect the green leaves, then you can boil them. You take that water and the leaf and stick it against a wound, any kind of injury. If you stick it against that injury, this is going to serve as an antibiotic in order to prevent diseases entering the wounds. So this is one of the very much important trees. We don't just use the water from the leaves. It must be the water together with the leaves, and then you stitch it there for a while. That is going to help. So a lot of people who cannot afford to pay for the expensive medicines, they are still relying on this kind of traditional medicines. Some of the people, they are even getting quite a lot of business. They are selling this kind of medical treatment under trees there in the areas where I come from, in Venda area. So we are still having the traditional practice on quite a lot of things. So this tree that I was just talking about now, which is this one again here in front, is one of the trees which has got a very good indication. Where these trees are growing a lot, it means that area, when it's raining, the underground water comes very close to the ground. A seep line is also called a seepage. So it means water, when it's raining, comes here very close to the ground. And because of that, since my young age, I have learned that when it's raining, you don't drive in those kind of areas, because otherwise you're going to get stuck. The water is not very far away from the ground. Sometimes you will see them as a belt. Then you can be able to tell it means there, that is where the water is moving under the ground. Oh yeah, I've got very nice and beautiful leaves. This is the same tree. Now you can see when the silver cluster leaf, the leaves are green. This is how they look like. Beautiful and nice and shining. So this one is still very much green. So this tree is very much clever. Why I'm saying the silver cluster leaf is clever? Because when this tree is flowering, the flowers smells like dirty socks. It doesn't attract the animals to come and browse on them, but it attracts some of the insects to come and do pollination. So you're going to pick up a very distinctive smell, just like dirty socks. That is how you can distinguish between the silver cluster leaf and the other trees. Steve, the green leaves I can eat. Let me just go back to this tree I'm coming from, because it's the one that has got still very fresh green leaves. These leaves, they are very medicinal. Leaves, we use them in order to treat the toothache problem. When experiencing toothache, you just have to take it and then you can eat. It's not that very sour. Maybe it's because I'm used to it. This is not very sour. I've been using it as a medicine. It's just like any other normal painkiller. A painkiller is not nice, but we drink it. So now let me go and see if I can find more interesting other things. Let's cross to Steve and see what's happening on his side.
Thanks, Sydney. Thanks for taking up the challenge. Now, did he even change his facial expression when he ate that leaf? They are very bitter. Maybe he's got a much higher tolerance to bitter foods than I do. But I remember Brent challenged me to eat a silver cluster leaf, and you might, if you were watching, might remember the face that I pulled that day. Well done, Sydney. I'm proud that you took up the challenge. Man after my own heart with his medicinal discussions. And indeed he's right. In 2012,
27 million people in South Africa alone were recorded to be using medicinal plants. That's half the population that we know of. It's probably a lot more. You know how these censuses go? I don't really actually, but how do they figure out whether people use medicinal plants or not? It's hard to say. 27 million people, that's a lot. Senzo, his family, he grew up using medicinal plants, will only ever take an injection if there was some serious sort of chronic pain. Other than that, his mom brought him up using medicinal plants, and it sounds as if Sydney was the same. My mom was after sort of normal medicine, sort of Western medicine. There's lots and lots to be found out here. Just for those common little things, like a headache and a sore stomach, all these little things. I think way too many people are very quick to just take a tablet. Very quick to take a tablet. I refuse to take tablets unless I'm really in dire straits. We build up a tolerance to things, but if we take a tablet immediately before even maybe doing a pressure point. Headaches, often it's a pressure point or a bit of dehydration. If you try a pressure point and drink some water and the headache still persists, well, then definitely. But maybe if you've got some chronic illness, don't go against anything your doctor's prescribed. Just here at Twin Dams. Anna Marie, there are a few. I'm trying to think off the top of my head now. I know that the jackalberry tree works as a good antibiotic, or sorry, it's antiseptic. That's not an antibiotic. Antiseptic. I'm going to have to rack my brains for that now. I can't remember the antibiotics. There are definitely trees out here with antibiotics, but I can't remember. I will remember this afternoon, and I'll throw it into my medicinal discussion. Here we are at Twin Dams. And the water is really dropping quite a lot. You've got some... What is that? Looks like a little wagtail on the top. And there is a plover on the bottom, enjoying the deserts of insects washing up on the side of these little watering holes. Oh, I just heard an alarm call, Craig, coming from that way. We're going to head north from here. I heard an impala snorting directly north from us here. Tristan was saying that Tingana was on the property. I had his tracks heading directly towards where Tristan is this morning. But he obviously hasn't spotted him, so maybe he walked straight past Hosana. I was saying to Tristan he might find Tingana in the tree feeding on Hosana's meat, which could be quite interesting. But these alarm calls, we've checked the south here. There's no activity of anything coming in, so we're now going to go back into the heart of Djuma, see if we can find the Duke himself. But it seems like Tristan is making his way away. Let's go and see what his plans are. Well, I am making my way away from Hosana because we just had impalas starting to alarm call just south of the dam wall, and I think maybe, just maybe, there is another leopard close by. So we just came to check, and I've stopped now to listen again. I can't hear them anymore, but there was some Franklins that alarm called from here and some impalas that were alarm calling from in front of where I am now. And they were kind of not the same as their normal rutting call where you get those sharp bursts or nasal snorts followed by that grunting sound. These are their normal kind of snorting sound that goes repetitively over and over. So I think maybe, just maybe, there might be another cat around. So Hosana wasn't really too phased. He was still absolutely passed out sleeping. So we'll head back to him if we don't have any luck. But I just want to check who this could be. Maybe Tingana's around. You never know. So we're going to just try and scratch around here a little bit. The impalas seem to have gone quiet. So that's not ideal, but you never know. Maybe somehow we find this individual walking around on the road. That would be quite nice, wouldn't it, if Tingana was just walking down the road? Certainly would make life a lot easier. It's always exciting when you hear alarm calls. It helps
tremendously in being able to actually find animals, because you have a situation where, you know, you can at least zero in on an area, and if you drive it around enough there, you eventually find the tracks, and then that helps with being able to obviously find the animal itself. So hopefully we will get them shouting once more, and we'll be able to find out where exactly they are. Sushant, it's always a big debate as to who's the biggest leopard, and obviously it's always subjective and difficult to actually pinpoint exactly which one is the biggest, but you know, Anderson has got to be probably up there. I mean, he really doesn't have too much competition in terms of the leopards I've seen. It's not to say that there are some other leopards that are around that we haven't seen that maybe are bigger, but I don't think so. Just from all of the reports that we've had and the way that things have gone over the course of the last few years, there doesn't seem to be any signs of any leopards that are bigger than Anderson. So I'd say probably Anderson is got to be one of the biggest. I always use the word one of because it's, you know, one of those situations where you don't want to just put it all into one basket. But I would say he would be probably up there. Tingana is by no means a small cat either. He's a big boy. I've seen actually him side by side with Anderson, and Anderson's only slightly bigger. It's not massive amounts in terms of the difference between the two of them. So, you know, Anderson is bigger, but not by much. And then who else? I've never seen many of the leopards of the west, so I don't really know how big Day One is or any of those guys. They might be quite big. They look like certainly as though they are big boys. Just trying to think in the central and western parts. There's no one really in the south that's come to the fore, or in the central, western, or eastern parts that I've seen. I mean, Kunyuma is obviously dominant around the Mala area, and I mean, last time I saw him, he was just a youngster, so I have no idea how big he is in relation to any of the others. But if quarantine's anything to go by, they're not really in the same league, unfortunately, in size-wise, as Anderson and even Tingana to a degree. So, you know, as much as they are big cats, I think too shy of those two. So yeah, I'd say Anderson for me would be the big individual that we've got probably in the sands currently moving about. But you never be certain. You can have a situation where another would come in, or there could be, you know, younger males that will get to that size point. It's always going to be as to which area you're in, because every ranger thinks that their male leopard is the biggest, and so, you know, it's always a kind of competition that goes, and you can never really tell. Anyway, we're going to just check around inside here. I have a funny feeling that maybe Tingana is walking around inside the Milwaukee, and so while we do that, let's send you back across to Sydney. I don't know where he is, but maybe if he's in the area, he'll pick up some alarm calls and give us a hand.
I've got one of the very much interesting trees here. I'm just trying to check something here, so I can see that this tree doesn't have fresh leaves there from the bottom. There's only a little bit of leaves available. A lot of leaves, they are dry already. So this is called a Ziziphus macronata. A Ziziphus macronata, there's quite a lot of traditional beliefs and quite a lot of different medicinal purposes of this tree. So now, here comes the green leaves. The green leaves, you can use them as an antibiotic, but you don't use them while they're green. This is what you must do. You must have to dry the leaves. The leaves must have to be dried like this, and they mustn't be wet. Then you must have to scorch them and convert them into a powder. When the leaves are in the form of a powder, if there is any injury, for instance, let's say here, what you must do, take that powder and thereby that wound, shortly after it has happened, you must have to come and put that powder there. That powder serves as an antibiotic. So it helps and it works, and it will even chase away things such as the flies. They won't come and land there because of the impact from these leaves. So that is something very interesting and something that I've seen happening while I was growing. In order to use the antibiotics, we're using this tree. It is called Muchechete in Venda. It's one of the very much respected tree. And we know, even when we are cleaning the bushes, trying to open the area, if you come across this tree, it's one of these trees you're not allowed to cut because it's going to help you. We need them for our survival. So let's see what we are going to find. Let's, Senzo, come this side. I want to check if we can find any other interesting plant here. No other interesting small plants here. There's only one species dominating, which is this bush willow. So I'm just gonna carry on looking, going much more towards the western side of the game reserve.
Well, we've got lots of alarm calls. We heard an impala coming from this side. And now there's go-away birds just trying to sort of triangulate the position. Whatever it is that they're following seems to be moving in that direction. So I'm going to go back to the way I was a moment ago. Go-away birds can be a good indicator of a predator, but it could also be an owl. They can often follow owls. Let's go back onto Twin Dams Road. You never know, you could be lucky. And go-away birds on the top of that tree now, but let's get around back on this side. Maybe they're following the Duke himself through the block. That'll be exciting. I haven't seen him since Saturday. So crazy we say these things. I haven't seen him in 2.5 days. Only in the Savi Sands, folks, I tell you. Only in the Savi Sands. I worked at a reserve last year. I didn't see a single leopard the entire year. Not one. So we're very fortunate. And there were leopard there. We saw tracks every single day. Who's here? You want to know if leopards spit and hiss? Well, before I answer your question, here is all the go-away birds here in the tree. There's some at the back and there's some right close up here in this first tree as well, Craigo. I've never heard of a leopard spitting. I mean, they could spit a little bit when they're fighting, but they do growl. It's like a kind of, it's a little bit more frightening than your domestic cat's hiss. But I suppose you could call it a hiss. I like to call it a snarl. But what the difference is exactly between the two, I think it's just the size of the animal, really. I mean, lions will do the same thing, but I don't know if an animal the size of a leopard or lion hisses. I think it's more of a snarling grimace. But anyway, we are with this family of go-away bird, and I think they might just be moving through the canopy, calling as they go. There's not too much to it, but it's always worth investigating and following up on the quang, quang, the go-away bird calls. But I think that they've let us to nothing. But anyway, it was interesting to follow and to see. We followed up on a squirrel earlier, and I don't have any faith in squirrels. We followed up just in case, and we didn't find anything, so it's still 0 to the squirrel when it comes to finding big animals for me, the big predatory kind. Okay, well, Tristan is doing something similar to me. I wonder if we're going to coincide in the same place. Let's go have a look. Well, I wonder, Steve, maybe we're following up on very similar areas. Although it sounds like Steve is closer towards Twin Dam, so he's much further down the Mulwati than what I am at the moment. But it'll be interesting to see. I can't find any signs. I'm looking for tracks and can't seem to find any leopard tracks anywhere. Lots of hyena tracks, and so maybe this impala just saw a hyena through the thickets and got a bit panicked, and that's why it was shouting the odds. But there's no real signs of any indications that a leopard has walked through there. And I've checked all the major pathways that normally house our leopard characters. They move around in that area. So Tandi and Tingana, there's a few paths that they like to walk on, and I didn't find any sign for either one of them on that particular section. So I don't know, maybe it was a hyena or something that just disturbed them. Sometimes even a little duiker can cause a bit of an issue, especially if it's in thick, dense areas like it is down in the bottom there. Then you get a situation where there's a lot of
sort of obscurities, and it makes it much harder for those prey animals to see what's going on, and so they pick up movement and then they just shout just to try and get everybody to pay attention there, and then once they see that it's not what it is, well, not anything to worry about, then they stop quite quickly. So, and this particular alarm call, it didn't go that long, so maybe that was the case. Maybe we just got excited too quickly. I'm still driving slowly, just double checking behind the dam wall. You never know, maybe there is going to be another leopard that's going to pop out somewhere in this particular section. Let's see though. Peter, it depends. I mean, you get some females that are far more aggressive about the way that they approach mating, and will try and actively seek out as many males as possible all around their territory in order to mate with. Other females are quite happy just to mate with the one individual that is in this sort of part of, well, the core of their territory. So it also depends on where the female's territory sits. You know, somebody like Thandi doesn't really have to be mating with anybody else because, well, her entire territory is currently inside of Tingana's protected area, and so it therefore doesn't really matter too much that she mates with him. You'll have a situation though that other females, and Kuchava is probably a good example as well as Shadulu, is that they're on the fringe of two different males, and so they've got a situation where they've got to mate with different males in order to ensure that whichever one kind of dominates, or if they stay in the same places, that they're able to actually pick them up and be able to sort of see the cubs and not see them as a situation where they want to kill them, that they are fooled into thinking that they are theirs. So Karula was a very good exponent of that. She used to travel far and wide in order to mate with different males. I remember once seeing Karula all the way down near the Londolozi Singita Elephant Plains boundary area, that far western side, which is way out of her territory. In fact, she crossed two different female territories just to get into that area, and she was mating with Tingana at that point, and then she came back here and mated with Mvula, and I think Jordan might have even still been around at that stage. I can't remember now, but you know, it's a situation where they will move quite a long way, and Kuchava, maybe that's what she's doing now. She's just mating with all the different possibilities that are around her, just in case, you know, any one of them becomes the dominant individual in that area, then she doesn't have to worry so much. She's mated with all of them, and they then theoretically shouldn't be too much of a threat to her little ones. So that's the kind of thing. It depends on, I suppose, where the female, like I say, where the female is, as well as how big is the male's territory around that female's territory. So, but yes, they do seek out different males quite regularly, and will do it fairly often. Right, still no sign of anything. I'm going to do one more loop around just in case. I'm going to go down towards Ingwe Alley and then come around back down, and then we'll go back towards Hosanna and sit with him and maybe listen out for more alarm calls. But while I do that, let's send you back across to Sydney, who's still taking a look at all of the little things.
I do have some of the very interesting things in order to repel insects such as the mosquitoes. So mosquitoes, they are very much easy to get rid of. What you've got to do is we're going to have to find the elephant dung, the dry elephant dung, and you just have to burn it at night. So when it's burning slowly at night, that kind of smoke it creates is the one which is going to chase away the mosquitoes. Apart from this, we also use buffalo and cow dungs. If you can check the buffaloes and cow dungs, because they are coming from a ruminant stomach. A ruminant stomach is kind of a stomach which is going to digest everything. So it's soft. There is no large materials consisting the dropping. So if you burn the dropping from a ruminant is an animal which go out for feeding purposes, and they come back and they take back food to the mouth and chew again. So those animals are called ruminants. They are droppings. Let me just get one of the droppings here. This is not from the buffalo, but it's from the ruminant. So if you can check there, it's very much soft. We don't have the leaves and twigs and roots which is not finally digested like the elephant dungs. So this one works much more easier than the elephant dungs, because if you burn it now, all it's going to do is it's just going to burn very slowly and produce the smoke all night long. And that is going to chase away the mosquitoes. I've been on this kind of experience. I have repelled mosquitoes on several occasions, make use of the animal droppings and some of the trees. It's just that here where I am in Juma Game Reserve, some of the interesting trees that can be able to chase away mosquitoes, I haven't discovered their location yet. Some of the trees, like one is called a fever tea. It has got a very distinctive smell. It smells like mint. During the sunset, we normally go as youngsters and we go to the bushes. We go and take them, and we just put those kind of branches on the headboards, and the mosquitoes don't land because they pick up that kind of a smell and it chases them away. So now I am going to be looking around here in order to see if there is any other interesting things that I can find this morning. So I am not alone at the moment looking for the interesting things for you. Let's go to Steve and see what is having at the moment.
Well, we've just had very loud alarm calls of impala just here in this depression. Very, very loud, very close. Just trying to listen again, see if there's any movement. Very likely Tingana or some leopard is moving either that way or that way. The alarm call sounded much closer than the ones we heard not so long ago, so it almost indicates the leopard is moving from left to right here, so sort of in an easty direction. And the reason why the impala would stop shouting is as if they lost sight of him. Standing by. Tristan just calling me. Yeah, copied. I've got nothing at the moment. I'm just going to go around a little bit more down Pangolin track. Okay, so Tristan's got the tracks of a male coming in from that side. Yeah, I'm just in that, just came off towards that drainage by those dry pans sort of to the north. And the impalas are stopped now, but I think there's some Franklin a little bit sort of more east. Just going to go around a bit more. Okay, so Tristan's helping us. This could be fun. We don't know who it is, but the activity of the alarm calls is always a good indicator of some form of predator. And what we know with these predators is when they get spotted, they move. Well, while we try and navigate here, let's go over to Tristan and see what he's going to do with the tracks.
Well, Steve, I just found the leopard right here in front of me. So Steve can keep coming. I'll hand it over to him and head back to Hosanna. But I just was following on the tracks, and who have we got? Hello, Tingana. Hello, boy. So there he comes, walking out into the sunlight. Now, there's a few bushes in the way, I'm afraid, which it will disappear shortly. But Tingana looking his beautiful self as always. He's a situation where he, has really come back into his prime in terms of his body condition. He's looking so much better than he was. So he's come actually from quarantine side. He came down Philemon's and then he cut into this little block. You can hear the birds are going crazy, and that's how we kind of found him. Now, Tingy, are you going to come right past us? Hello, boy. How cool is that? What an epic morning. So you can hear the cisticolas that are going crazy next to me, and as soon as we heard the cisticolas, I was saying to David, I'm sure this leopard is right here. And as I looked up, there he was, kind of coming through the bush. So we got very lucky that we spotted him where we did, because it's quite thick around here, and if we had missed him, it would have been quite difficult. But like I say, Steve can keep coming. I'll head back towards Hosanna, and he can carry on with Tingana. And he was also in the area, and I was just following up because I wasn't sure where Steve was. What's this coming here? Here's another leopard. There's another leopard here. It looks like maybe Tundi is also here. So there comes another leopard running down. So I don't know who it is, but there's definitely another cat that's up there. You can listen. So the two of them are talking to each other. Definitely a female in this area as well. This is amazing. So who is it now? Is it Kuchava or Tandi? I can't see nicely. I'm going to try and just get into a better position. Now there's Tlalamba as well. So it's Tandi and Tlalamba. There's 3 of them here. This is crazy. And they're going all up towards where Hosana is. Could we get all 4 together? Look at this, guys. This is amazing. Hey, guys. We're all together. This is so cool. So I haven't seen Tandi and Tlalamba together since I've been back. And Tingana, well, he's just doing his thing. He's not together. Look at this. This is so cool. Now, I was wondering, because with Steve having the alarm calls where he was, and I had alarm calls, but they didn't quite match up. They were sort of too far apart for considering. And so I was thinking to myself, I wonder if there isn't a situation where there was another leopard around, and we know that we heard vocalizing last night of a female and a male, and that's exactly what we've found. We've now found all 3 of them together, and so in a small radius there's 4 different leopards not too far from each other. Hosana is not even, I would say, 600 meters north of us towards the dam, maybe 700 meters if we think about it. Actually, it's over this little ridge, but it's not far at all. And then you've got these 3 together. But amazing. How's that for a surprise? We didn't expect to see that this morning. So I'm super happy that they've all come together. So, Sassy, you say this is so epic. Well, it doesn't get any more special than this. To have had 4 leopards by 7:45 in the morning is really quite something. Now look at this. They're all walking in a straight line together. No, this is crazy. How cool is that? That's very cool to see. Wow, that is amazing. Now, I would like Steve to come here, because just from a point that you never know if they're going to stay together or if there's going to be a situation where they're going to split and we're going to have a sort of trouble to get, to follow all cats, because Tingana's wandering off, and it seems as though Tandi and Tlalamba are just sitting tight for now. They're not too mobile. They're just kind of sitting here and taking it easy. Now, it doesn't look like either of them are full-bellied, so I don't think she's got a kill in this area, and given that they were quite far from here yesterday, I'm quite surprised that they've moved as far as they have. But what is happening is Tingana is mobile straight north, and it looks like if Tandi and Tlalamba follow, we're going to end up going towards the dam. And like I say, it'll just be good if we have 2 vehicles around in case things kind of change and we have a situation where, we need to follow different individuals. But this is just absolutely insane. Wow. We've been very spoiled with cats of late. Absolutely incredible. So you can see Tlalamba's watching Tingana very closely. She's not sure what to make of all of this. So Liz, you say this is breathtaking. So Tandi is actually following Tingana, and so is Tlalamba. Obviously Tlalamba knows just to stay very close to Tandi as much as possible, but we'll keep up with them. Let's see how this is going to play out. Can you imagine if we get all of them joining up with Hosana, how that's going to be? It's going to be very interesting to see the dynamic if that happens. Will Tingana be very defensive of the fact that he's with a female? It's going to be very interesting. So let's see how this goes. Maybe there is a kill here that will stop them from getting that far, but we'll try and kind of have a little look around. Funny enough, this is exactly where I was walking yesterday through here, and I was just thinking to myself, it's so long since I've seen Tandi and Tlalamba's tracks in this particular block. They haven't really been spending much time in this central area. And then, well, lo and behold, the next day, here they are with us, which is absolutely amazing. Now, I just want to get hold of Steve on the radio so that he knows where I am. So, Carol, I don't think so. It's a little early for Tandi to be going into estrus. I don't think that's the case. I think it's more a situation that she's just reaffirming herself as, Tingana's mate, and that this little cub is Tingana's, and making sure that he's doing his job and protecting her. You can see Tingana's not fazed by them at all. He's just strode right past them, not worried in any way whatsoever. So, pretty amazing that, he is the way that he is with the little one, and I think it's more just a situation where Tandy's just making sure that this cub is in a safe area, and also sticking close to Tingana means that she doesn't have to worry about Hukamuri, this skittish male leopard that was seen with Kuchava, quarantine. She doesn't have to worry about any of those because Tingana will be, around and vocalizing and scent marking, and that's going to keep other males at bay. So she's being very clever, actually, by being close to wherever Tingana has been hanging out. It means that the safety of her and Tlalamba is infinitely increased if she's close to them. But this is ridiculous. Like I say, to have this many leopards, wow. We're being very spoilt this morning. Steve? Now, I'm trying to get hold of Steve, but my radio's not... Steve, just come onto Ingwe Alley. You'll see where I went off-road. Stations I've located, Tingana, Tandi, Tlalamba, all together. Mobile north in the block now. So, we just try... Yeah, FM Ingwe Alley. Just come off Ingwe Alley, off my vehicle track where I go off-road there. Look at that. Hello, Tandi. Now, I saw Tandi the other day very briefly, but otherwise haven't spent any time with her since I've been back, and she's absolutely beautiful. Look at her chuffing. So she's calling Tlalamba to just stay close, just in case. Tingana's just off on our left-hand side. In fact, they're going to walk straight towards Tingana now, which is going to be amazing. Now, Rosh, Ali did actually leave her lucky beans in South Africa when we went to the Mara. We left them in South Africa, so they are actually around. They're in my room currently. So it's been, maybe that's a good luck charm. We have been very lucky with cats since kind of coming back. We haven't really struggled too much at all. It's been very pleasant, actually, to not have to worry too much about leopards and finding them. But look at this, she's approaching Tingana, so we're going to have all three of them hopefully together in the same little shot. There goes little Tlalamba. Tandi scent marking right in front of Tingana, so Tingana's just lying at the base of that marula currently. I'm going to just wait for them to approach. I don't want to move too much and cause too much of a stir, but let's see how this goes. Tingana's not worried at all. He's not growling, he's not hissing. Absolutely incredible. This is amazing. Well, if anybody was worried about what Tingana would do to Tlalamba if they came across them, well, you can see that he's really not too phased at all. I'm going to try and just get through. Now, sorry, Megs, can you just repeat the name there for me? Wisteria, it is absolutely amazing. So this is the best thing that I could ever have. To be around 3 leopards in the wild is absolutely incredible. It really is a very, very, very special thing to see. So we're super fortunate that we are in the Sabi Sands and we are a part of a place where... Oh, hang on. There's a big branch that came up over the bonnet there. In a place where we get to see such relaxed individuals so regularly. It's a very special thing. I mean, there's people that guide in other parts of the world and are guides, even in South Africa, in parts of the Kruger, that don't see leopards ever. If they get one leopard sighting in, 2-3 months, it's an exciting time. So we're really fortunate in that we get, pretty consistent, pretty constant leopard viewing almost every day. And to have a situation where you get 3 leopards together is just absolutely ridiculous. Wow. I'm surprised also how far Tandi's walked with Tlalamba this morning. I mean, they've gone a long, long way. Like I said, they were found in Torchwood around First Rock, which is... it is on the western part of Torchwood, but it's more towards the center. And so they've walked all the way from there around and into this area. And I wonder if Tandi didn't make a kill. If she was the one vocalizing last night, maybe she's made a kill, fetched Tlalamba, and now they are on their way to the kill. And wonder if Tingana is maybe just going to head in that direction and follow them. I think the first alarm calls that I heard was for these two. And Tingana's responding to those alarm calls and kind of coming into this area. And then Tandi has seen him and also come towards him. So I think that's what's happened. But anyway, let's carry on with Tandi and Tlalamba, see where they go. While we do that, Steve is now with Tingana.
Well, when it rains, it pours out here. And indeed, we are just on the other side of the drainage line where I was before with those alarm calls, and Tristan found Tingana, and it's possible that seeing his Tandi just materialized out of the drainage towards our left, that maybe those impala that we could hear were actually calling at her, and the impala we heard earlier were calling at him. Why they sounded so far apart and then suddenly so close. Ooh. How magical was that? That is the Duke. He's just shouted, told us he is here. Magical. So, driving the entire property to see that no tracks went out is beneficial, or no tracks come in, and then we move into the heart and locate our animals. And you see how important alarm calls are. And impossible to see. I couldn't even see Tristan from the road, but so it'd be impossible to see a leopard from the road. But I've no doubt he's about to stand up. He's looking a little bit antsy. He's looking like he's had a little bit of a chat with Tandi, and maybe, I don't know what happened between them, but he has called himself to the morning. Surprised he didn't find Hosana's killed and scavenge off it again. Yes, it is also one of my favorite sounds, folks. The call of a leopard. And he is so lazy, he's not even standing up. He's got himself a little bit of shade behind the marula tree. Remember, we started our morning with the sunrise coming out of the marula tree, and now we have a leopard hiding behind it. So the marulas are a very important aspect out here in the African wilderness. They grow the sun in the morning, and they hide the leopards. He's not happy. He's not happy about something. Angie, they do. Females do soar. There's probably, if we had to record them, there would be a slight difference in tone. But it's hard for us to tell the difference in the tone by our own ear. But the male leopards have a fewer calls, and the female goes on for longer. That is how I differentiate the two. But if you heard a leopard calling, you wouldn't really know unless you just listen to the length of it. After very many years of experience, I reckon you can hear the difference in the tone. But it's tricky. It's tricky. There's definitely something going on around here, folks. If there's another leopard that's going to materialize out of the bushes, I would not be surprised on a morning like this. The leopards are just raining down. Thanks, Tristan, for calling me in. It's nice to have a vehicle close by, because obviously Tingana is here, and then Matandi and Tlalamba. The chances of them spending the whole morning together are quite slim. She's going to want to leave him because he's going to steal any kill she might make. So having two vehicles, now we're able to follow both, spend time with both, and obviously if we lost them all, we could easily fall back on the little Chief Hosana, who is not going anywhere. Well, what is going on, Tingana? He's growling and then he's calling. I don't know, maybe there's someone else in the area. Maybe he wants to mate. I don't know. Very, very interesting. Well, we're going to stay with him. We're not going anywhere. And while we do that, Tristan is with the beautiful leopardess and her cub, Tlalamba.
I am indeed. So I'm with Tandi and Tlalamba. We're just sitting north of Tingana, just looking in his direction as he's been calling. And it's not surprising that he is calling. It's a situation often you'll find when male leopards meet up with their female and the young ones that they've had. They are often very vocal about it. So they lots of calling, and it's just to assert themselves as the dominant individuals. I have a funny feeling that Tingana can still see Tandi and Tlalamba, and that's why he's still calling and kind of chuffing and growling and doing his thing. There might be another leopard here. You never know. He's actually on his way now. I can hear Steve coming towards me, and so I think Tingana's just going to move towards these two. But what might happen with all this calling and alarm calls is we might get a situation where Hosana actually comes this way. We know Hosana can't help himself. He's often a character that likes to investigate everything, and so maybe we'll see a situation where Hosana appears out of nowhere here. The good thing, though, is no matter who appears here,
Tingana is going to be the dominant individual and really going to kind of take control of what goes on. And so Tandi and Kalamba should be fairly safe. There shouldn't be an issue there, although you never know when you get multiple different leopards in a sighting. It's much like lions, as they can sometimes get a little confused by everything, and you have a situation where they might attack the wrong individual. But I don't think so in this case. I think Tingana is very aware of who is around and what's going on, and I think he's just asserting himself as the Duke of this area. And you can hear him calling. He's coming closer, slowly but surely moving towards these two. What was interesting is just now is Tandi was scent marking quite heavily, and she was even making small grunting sounds. So it wasn't full on call, but it was a small grunting sound, and she's still chuffing at Kalamba, who's right here. They're really close together. Unfortunately, I don't really have space to get any further than where I am right now, and so I can't move too much. What I might do actually, David, let's just move slightly, because if Tingana comes, it's going to be quite special to get the three of them together. So let's just try and see if I can get around these two. Florian, no, they will sense each other in terms of they would have heard vocalizing, they would have probably heard alarm calls from different animals, and that then drives them to go and check it out. And so it's exactly what happened, is we heard alarm calls and we went and kind of searched for what was going on. The alarm calls didn't quite align though. My alarm calls were coming from pretty much where we are now and around the Mulawati system, and Steve's alarm calls were coming from a little bit further south of that. And so what I think has happened is that both leopards have heard alarm calls and then have moved into those areas in order to try and investigate what's going on and try and see who's around. And that's meant that they've led up, well, meeting up with one another. Now there we go, we can get all three in one shot. So we've got Kalamba closest to us, then Tandi, and then right at the back on the termite mound is where Tingana is sitting. So if you ever thought you could have an epic morning like this, well, I didn't quite expect it to be this good. I mean, I thought we'd have a great morning with Hosana, but to have these guys all together is pretty special. Well, let's just try to keep up with them, though. I just want to try and see, because Tingana is up on the mound. He's not too stressed about what's going on as we kind of move. He's still happy to move a little bit, and Kalamba is interesting in her behavior because she's kind of approaching Tingana very slowly, but only if Mom goes there. If Mom doesn't go, then she doesn't do it. Good. Well, Steve's in a better position than I am currently, so let's just quickly hop you across to him.
This is unbelievable. Tingana climbed onto that termite mound and started scent marking, and he was doing a contact call. I've never in my own self ever heard a male leopard doing a contact call like that. I've seen females doing it, calling their cubs, but Tingana doing it, and then Tandi walked straight towards him, and so did the beautiful little Kalamba. Well, I'm just going to move back a bit, Craig. What do you think? I don't know where she's going, but Kalamba's just jumped onto that log there. There she is, off to your left. Hello, beautiful one. Tingana is calling again, but very half-hearted, that one. That was just a quick little... So magical to see a male interacting with a female and her cub like this. Hello, Tandi. Hello, beautiful ones. So yes, Tristan, this morning we were talking about a female leopard calling. And that is a male calling in the background. And, you know, we were talking about who it could be, and I suggested Shadulu, and Tristan said, well, it can't be Tandi because she's too far away. But now look where she is. She's right here. How far she's walked. You know, you can never assume you know anything about leopards and the distance they travel. All we can do is document it. So little Kalamba is now walking onto the termite mound that Tingana was busy scent marking on. I wonder if she would be interested in smelling what he's smelt. That's what Dad smells like. Well, well, well. All sorts of information going through her head at the moment. Tundi as well. Communication time. She's just hoping he's not going to scavenge any meat she grabs. But she is a beautiful hunter. We know that. She's a very successful hunter. But with a male leopard calling like that. Oh, hello, Tlalumba's about to attack Mum from the back. Is she? There she is. Mum, you haven't seen me yet. So male leopard calling obviously announces to everybody in and around that there's a leopard here. And it doesn't help with the hunting. And Tundi seems to have gone the opposite direction towards him now. A little bit of an elevated view. She's hoping to spot a duiker or a steenbok or one of the impala. No doubt if she does spot, she'll move off. Maybe she's hoping Tingana will flush something in her direction now. It's very possible. Tlalumba on top of the termite mound learning how this all works. Come on, go sit next to your mom and pay attention to the rules of engagement. She's more interested in all the smells around the termite mound. The ever-watchful Tundi. Okay, well, we're going to go back over to Tristan, who is still with the calling Duke.
I am indeed, so I'm just keeping up with him just to see where he goes. You can hear the impala's alarm calling, so this is what we were attracted to. There you go, you can hear them just snorting in the background. And you'll see his tail will go up and just indicate a little bit of kind of I'm not hunting you, leave me alone scenario. And he's just striding off, probably will scent mark on that bush as he goes, so he'll just grub up on that and then lift his tail. There we go. So that's where he was going to. What we're going to do is, because this is just a very special situation, is we're going to get a lot of people on different platforms to have a little watch with us as we see how this plays out. Well, good morning everybody and welcome to what can only be described as a rather chaotic morning. We've got the most incredible scene that's been unfolding and we hopefully are going to be able to share it with all of you. My name is Tristan and you are live with us from South Africa, which means that this is interactive and we want to hear all your questions and comments, and you can do that just in the comment section below and we'll try and answer as many as possible. But what we've got in front of us is a big male leopard, our dominant male leopard from this area, and he is on a mission. He's vocalizing, he's scent marking, and the reason for that is because he's just joined a female that he's mated with and her cub, and they're around as well, so the three of them are together and they're walking towards a fourth leopard. So it's just absolutely crazy at the moment, and it's going to be interesting to see how this all plays out. The fourth leopard is one of his sons, but is not in any way affiliated to the female with her cub. She's in fact would be a bit of a threat to her cub, and so it's going to be an interesting interaction if all three end up going towards that young male, as to how the young male is going to respond and how Dad is going to respond to the young male being around his cub and his female. So it should be a really interesting sort of next period, and we hopefully are going to see something crazy or play out. You can see the male is going to get onto the road now and he's going to walk just straight north. Lots and lots of calling from him. He's stamping his authority as a big dominant figure in this particular area, and so there we go. Isn't that just wonderful? How fortunate are we to be able to spend time with the most elusive of the big cats. You can see he's just ambling up the road, and this is very typical of a big dominant now. You hear that? So that's him calling, that's him stamping his mark as the dominant individual in this area. And so he's telling everybody, I am the big boss of this section. And so any other leopard that's around here will hear that. And the female knows, she'll recognize his call as him. And the young male will also recognize his call. And they'll all know exactly who's moving around. But they won't be too phased because they are all kind of related. And he's very tolerant of the young male as well as obviously the female and the cub that he has produced with that female. So, it's a situation where they are not too stressed. But I wonder if the female and cub are actually going to follow him as he goes northwards. You can see now he's scent marking, so scraping those back legs while dropping urine. That's all the way that an leopard goes about its business. What it does is, as it scrapes the ground, it opens the ground out, which means that when it urinates, that scent actually soaks into the soil, and it's therefore going to last a lot longer. He'll also end up getting a bit of scent on his feet, and so as he's going to walk along, he's then going to take his scent with him, and it's going to make a situation where a lot of other animals, if they cross that path, will know, okay, this is the dominant individual in this area, and either then steer clear if it's a rival male, or have a situation where they will be, if it's a female coming to estrus, be able to follow that and try and find the male. Now, I was saying that there is a mother and cub that is also with us very close by, and Steve, my colleague, is sitting with them while I follow the big boy.
Yes, good morning, everybody. That is Tlalamba, little 9-year-old, and there is the photobombing Tandi, the leopardess of Djuma, and they are indeed pretty much on the trail of Tingana. That is his daughter, and they are probably hoping that something is going to get flushed by his movements, because he's not being very obvious. He's being very obvious in his movements and his calling, and she will use that as an opportunity to catch some prey. And Tlalamba, her youngster, is with her after walking quite a long distance in the evening. I can't tell you how far, but much further than both Tristan and myself would have thought. And she's learning the tricks of the trade. Little mini-me on the right, seeing how Mama's moving from bush to bush and stopping and listening. I can just hear the screams of some dwarf mongooses off to the left. They've spotted her. Alan, it's something we always think about, if he could hurt the mother and cub, but they were just together. They've been together many times in the time I've been on the property, and they were just together moments before, and then Tandi joined Tingana, and then Tingana was left behind as they walked off, and then they walked back to him, and they crossed over without any signs of animosity towards each other. So it is his daughter, so he's got no need to cause her any harm. If Tandi was in mating readiness and the cub was not his, well, that is when we invariably hear of the injuries caused to cubs by males. Well, good morning. My name is Steve. I'm joined on camera by Craig. Drop your comments and questions below. We're going to see if we can catch up with her again. Okay, well, Tristan is still with Tingana, just a little bit further up there on the left. Let's go back over to him.
Well, we're still following Tingana, and he's moving straight north to where we left his son this morning. His son has been at a water point that is just in the northern side of us here and has been there for the last few days. And Tingana has been coming and going and kind of checked up on his son a little bit and not really been too phased, but they are moving in that direction. And what's going to be really interesting is that if Tingana goes there, will Tandi and the cub follow? And if they do, what is going to happen between all of them? So it should be a very, very interesting scenario that's going to play out. Tingana undoubtedly is going to end up at this point with his son. You'll find that interaction will be probably a little growly, a little hissy. There won't be too much, but Hosana won't run. Hosana is the son, and Tingana is the dad. And you'll have a situation where they probably won't run from each other, but there'll be a little bit of growling and hissing, and Tingana will most definitely do a lot of scent marking. So he'll mark his territory, he'll probably vocalize, just to assert himself as the dominant individual. And then Hosana will be probably a little bit more submissive. He will probably cower down a little bit. In saying that, though, this particular male, young male, Hosana, is a bit different to a lot of other young males and might not actually sort of play that game. It will be interesting, though. Let's kind of see how it goes. In the past, Hosana hasn't really stressed too much about his dad being around and hasn't really been too worried about dad's big figure looming and kind of walking towards him and vocalizing. So it's going to be a very interesting scenario.
So, Shelley, other male leopards, potentially if they were in this area and felt like they wanted to challenge him, they might try and get involved and come in and try and actually sort of fight and challenge with Tingana, but generally no. The male leopards, when they hear another male, they're normally quite nervous unless they are the dominant male in that area. So if Tingana heard another male call right now, he most certainly would be there like a shot to try and get that male out of his territory. But any other male that's kind of coming in here that's not territorially dominant, if they hear a big dominant male like this, they're going to most of the time try and move away and try and get out of that area and make sure that they're not in any way caught by the big dominant male that's there. And it's normally younger males that are trying to challenge, and so it's very dangerous for them to come too close. Right, we're going to probably lose sight of Tingana briefly. He's going down into an area that's very difficult for me to follow him, but I know where he's going, so I'm going to just try and get around and just loop onto the other side. In fact, there might actually be a way through here. We might have gotten very lucky that he's chosen a path that I can follow, which will be quite nice. I think this is one of the paths that I can take. But while I try and keep up with Tingana and just get towards where his son is, let's send you back across to Steve and see what Thandi and Tlalamba are up to.
Yeah, his ex-wife and his daughter. Oh, there they are. We lost them. I've spotted them again. Just came around onto this game path. I heard the dwarf mongoose shouting again. Different path altogether. They kind of are moving in the same direction he is, but they moved into some really thick bush. And I didn't want to go through because, oopsie, sorry Craigo, it's a bit bumpy. It's just coming through over here. This gets very, very dense, but there's Tlalamba, there's Thandi. There she is, hello. So they're still moving very parallel with the road at the moment. There's Thandi at the back, and Tlalamba's about to come into shot. It's a very thick area. If they go, then this is perfect area for Dacre. Some Nyala as well. And it's interesting that she is kind of following the movement of Tingana. Thandi is right, showing the youngster exactly what to do. These are the areas we move. This is how we move. Move away from alarm calls. Maria, they are an awesome family, aren't they? And they give us all sorts of entertainment. Well, we're going to go down into the drainage here. I'm going to guess that we might get a view of them again, but following them into that little piece there, impossible. Here's a bit of a two-track going in to actually an area where Thandi denned with Tlalamba when I first got here. So it's a very familiar area for her. And it's quite thick, and she knows that there's Dacre around and all sorts of food. She knows every scratch of land. Oh, sorry. Well, while we go on, let's go back over to Tristan Tingana.
Well, good luck in finding Thandi out of Tingana, but almost back to where we had him last. I've just got to try and negotiate a rather thick, dense, bumpy area, and then we should be with him again. He was not far from us walking in this direction, so I'm north of him now, which is good news. So, Jamie, they could be heading, well, they are heading straight to water. We know where they are. In terms of if they're actually going to drink, I'm not quite sure. It's going to be interesting to see. And because there's going to be another leopard where they're going to go and where there is going to be water, that's going to make things a little more interesting in terms of we're going to have a situation where maybe that's going to distract them a little bit from actually drinking water, and maybe they'll just kind of have a standoff and not really focus on that. Now, Tingana should be right here in front of us. This is where, there he is, I can see him there. So he's just gone up and out of this little drainage line, which is okay. We'll be able to get to him quite easily, and it opens up quite nicely from here. So we'll have a situation where we'll be able to follow him fairly well through this section. So there he is. He's just straight in front of me at the moment. There we go. Just got to try and squeeze our way through here and get into a nice place. Oh, it's been all chaos and action this morning. It's been an absolutely phenomenal morning to be able to have this situation. Now, I'm just listening to Megan. She's giving me a long message. But to have this situation is just absolutely insane. And so we've been absolutely spoiled this morning. Now, Tingana's just... This is exactly where I was driving this morning. Weren't we, David? We were here earlier. So earlier when I was saying I was looking for any signs or tracks, this is why I was looking here, because I know this is where Tingana likes to walk. And so I was hoping that I would have picked up some sign of him, but he hadn't quite got here yet. We were a little bit early to the party, but managed to at least find him eventually. He is going straight towards the dam, so we're going to have a situation where he is going to meet up with Hosana, that's for sure. And it sounds like Thandi and Kalamba are following, so maybe quite an interesting interaction, this. I'm not sure if I'm really looking forward to it, because anything can happen when young males, big males, cubs are involved. Things can be a very different scenario and very different situation when that happens. But wow. Didn't expect this morning, did we? None of us, I don't think. All right, let's try and just keep up with him. Now, I believe James is going to also come and join us in this whole saga. He's going to head off to Hosana and wait there and see if Hosana has stayed or if Hosana's moved with all the vocalizing. I suspect Hosana's probably just stayed exactly where he is. I don't think he'll be too concerned about Tingana vocalizing and making a lot of noise. We know in the past he certainly hasn't, and so I highly doubt it. But you can see Tingana's going to hit the road and he's going to go straight to the dams right here. It's about 100 meters away, 200 meters away, so he's going to be there fairly shortly, and then we'll have a situation where we'll have an answer as to what happens. But I suspect, Tingana being way ahead of Thandi and Kalamba, we're going to have a little kind of brief thing with Hosana. Tingana's not going to be too stressed about it. They might flop down and kind of just sit there, and then that might give time for Thandi and Kalamba to actually catch up, and then who knows what's going to happen. Then it's going to be a situation where it's basically a free-for-all. So we'll just try and kind of have a look and see how it's going to play out. But while I follow Tingana this last little 100 meters or so, let's send you back across to Steve, who hopefully has found Thandi and Kalamba again. No, I haven't. They're in there. There's very, very dense vegetation. We might have missed them. They might have walked past us. We didn't see. Let's just pop our noses in here, see if they pop out again. It's important to listen for alarm calls as we go along. This is an area we were following Hosana last week. Very, very dense. Perfect habitat for the stealthy leopard. But incredible that Tingana is headed towards Hosana and Thandi and Kalamba seem to be following him. And just pops out on the road there where Tristan was following Tingana, but the tracks didn't come out, so I'm going to guess that they're probably still in the drainage, or he might have just missed them. We're going to stand by here and maybe in a few minutes move a little bit further on. I've got a feeling they're keeping this sort of normal, the same sort of path. Unless they spot anything and hunt it. Well, we need to listen. It's important to switch off and keep the ears open. How very exciting. Listen for some alarm calls of birds, such as Franklin, small birds as well. The mongoose helped us before. Very helpful. Remember, they are very quiet when they move on their own. So without the alarm calls and their camouflage, it's very hard to find a leopard in very thick bush. Well, I'm sure our cats are moving, but Tristan's is moving as well. I am indeed. So hopefully Thandi and Kalamba will follow a very similar path to Tingana, and then Steve should be able to find them quite easily. They'll get up onto a track and it's much easier to follow there. But Tingana's cut off now. He's not going towards the dam. He's now heading kind of away from the dam in an easterly direction, northeasterly direction. So it'll be interesting to see. The dam is just off on our left-hand side now. That you can see the dam wall. There was a squirrel alarm calling, so I wonder if maybe Hosana's not moving somewhere there. Tingana looked briefly in that direction and then just kind of carried on walking as though he didn't really care too much. So I wonder where he is off to and what he's actually up to. I was thinking he was going to go to the dam, but he's obviously decided no, that's not where he wants to be. He's got some other idea of somewhere he needs to go, because he's also not stopped. Since we've been left Tandi and Kalamba, he hasn't even for 1 second thought about stopping. He's just going as quick as he can, and kind of lots of scent marking. He hasn't vocalized as much anymore either. So I think he's just try and get through here. So Hosana is not far at all. I mean, as the crow flies, less than 300 meters away. So the thing is, though, is Tingana's angling away from him. So straight in the direction that Tingana is walking now is where we left Hosana, down at the bottom there, lying in the long grass. And so Tingana, if he changes and just starts backing down towards the dam, we might see them meet up. But it looks very much likely that they're going to miss each other without even knowing that they were there. Of course, Hosana will know that Tingana's around, given how much noise he's made, but Tingana might not know that Hosana is there. You can actually even see James now coming down and towards the sighting. Anna-Marie, if Hukamuri arrived on the scene, it would be absolute panic and pandemonium and complete chaos. You would find Tingana would probably be very upset about life, and he would run in and probably try and chase Hukamuri. Tandi would not take it as well. She would also try and interact and try and kind of keep her cubs safe. And Hosana, well, he would just be in the middle of everything. So it would be an absolute sort of meltdown of spots if we had Hukamuri arrive here. I doubt Hukamuri will come here. With the amount of noise Tingana's made, I doubt any other of the dominant male leopards will even be setting foot anywhere near here right now. I think it's more a situation that you'll find staying well clear. Also, Hukamuri, I believe yesterday, was going south from Elephant Plains camp, so he was very, very, very far from this area. And with Anderson pushing further south to the Sand River, it seems as though Hukamuri is actually spending a lot more time down to the west and southwest than he is actually spending time on our side. So since Tingana's kind of made this resurgence and has started vocalizing, there's been far less presence from Hukamuri, that's for sure. Now, I wonder what's going on, because Tingana's stopped all of a sudden. He's looking straight down towards the dam. There was a squirrel alarm calling. He's watched that vehicle. I wonder if he thinks maybe there is something and he's actually going to change direction and head down to that area. I don't see any sign of Tandi and Tlalamba from behind us. I've been watching while I've been sitting here just in case they make an appearance behind where we are, but I haven't seen any sign of them yet. Maybe they will make an appearance just now, but so far doesn't seem to be. It's actually interesting because Tlalamba has spent very little time at the dam. We've hardly seen her on the dam cam. It's been a few and far between, so I'll be interested to see if Tandi brings her all the way, particularly with the male leopard around, or if she's just going to go and find a spot to try and rest for the rest of the day. Intriguing, though, that's for sure. It's definitely a situation where it's a bit of a Game of Thrones at this stage, and just absolute, uncertainty everywhere. Good, well, Tingana's back on the move. It sounds like Steve is caught up with Tlalamba, and so we're all in the right places to hopefully have an epic sighting continue. Yeah, well, thank you, squirrels. You have gone and outdone yourself this morning. We heard them shouting in the drainage, and so I decided that from 50, 60 meters either side of the squirrel, that's probably where you're going to find the animal, because they don't tend to shout when they're very close. And we found them, Tandi walking, with Tlalamba walking parallel to her, mimicking her mother's movements. What have you spotted? Tlalamba coming up behind Mum to have a look. Olalamoy been here. There's been a number of times, I can't remember offhand, but there's been a number of times where Tingana's been in the same sighting as these two. What have they spotted? Tandi seems to have spotted something. What are you doing, little one? There she is. She's trying to see, what has Mum spotted in the distance? What a fantastic sighting. The action never stops, yeah? Just when you think it's a quiet morning, the leopards all materialize out of the woodwork. Okay, well, Tlalumba's tired now. She's going to sit down, and Thandi, not finished, is listening. Still listening, and she's moving. Tlalumba's going to... So Thandi walks up to all these these thickets, these fallen over trees with bushes underneath, birds. She knows it. And little Tlalumba seems to be on the hunt with Mum this morning. Normally, Mum gives her a bit of a snarl, and she knows she needs to stay put. But today, she's not giving her that snarl. She's saying, "Follow me, young one. Let me show you how it's done." Okay, well, let's get around here. Okay, well, Tristan is still with Tingana, so we're going to try keep up with these ladies. And in the meantime, let's go over there.
Well, good luck, Steve. I know where you are, and it's not easy to keep up with, particularly those two girls, through that section, so hopefully Steve will get lucky. Tingana is still moving, still going northwards. He's kind of hugging parallel to the dam at the moment, not walking close enough that I think he's going to pick up Hosanna. So I think he's going to slide right past without even knowing Hosanna's there. And Hosanna obviously would have heard Tingana a while back, but probably doesn't know him, that he's also this close. And so we're actually cutting a little bit more east now than anything else. So I think they're not going to meet up like we initially thought. We'll just stop here so we can get a really nice view of Tingana coming past. But has this not just been the most ridiculous morning? Sometimes the Sabi Sands can just be an insane place where you think that in the space of an hour and a bit we had 4 leopards and pretty much all in the same spot. It's rather ridiculous, actually. Like I say, I mean, there's people in many parts of South Africa and Africa that work in wilderness areas that a leopard is a figment of their imagination. It's a ghost. It doesn't get seen. And yet here we are in the Sabi Sands and we get these insane views of relaxed individuals. The fact that we have 4 different leopards and every single one of the 4 are individuals that can be followed and seen and viewed, and we get these looks into these secretive animals' lives is a very, very special thing. So what a wonderful way to spend a morning, that's for sure. Certainly has brightened up my day no end this morning. To have been with all of our cats and to have seen all of them has been pretty good. I'm quite chuffed with the fact that I managed to get to see all of the individuals we've had this morning. It's amazing how some days you drive around here and it feels like there's nothing and there's no animals, and then you have days like this where just leopards falling out of everywhere. I wonder where Tingana's going. I'm interested to see his walk that he's taking here because, you know, a lot of his northwestern part of his patrols and his territory is a little bit sort of unbeknownst to us. We don't actually really know where he goes and what he gets up to. We often find his tracks on Central and places like that, but this northwestern block, we don't really actually know what his routes are and how he goes about it and how far north he actually pushes. So it's going to be very interesting just to see, does he go all the way up to Buffelshoek, or is he going to be in a situation where he's going to just stay around this area and kind of cut more east from here? Anyway, Steve is still with Thandi and Tlalumba. He's managed to get a better view, so let's jump across that side.
Well, they keep moving through the bushes, and we come around the bushes, and then they move back into the bushes. So we're trying to get a better view. Tlalumba is suddenly stalking something, not very successfully. She suddenly did a little bit of one of those and a run, and off she went. But let's go and see if we can get back in front. They walked right past to Franklin a moment ago, and the Franklin didn't make a sound. They just went the freeze tactic. Well, they survived. They survived, so maybe that works from time to time. Okay, well, it's getting very thick now. There's Thandi. She's watching her little youngster try and hunt. It's going into that very thick drainage line at a crossing called Giraffe Crossing on Central Tlalamba looks like she spotted a bird in the tree. Oh, she's gone for a squirrel. You can hear the squirrels shouting. I just heard the branches breaking. See if we can get there. Don't know if she got it, but it's important for her to learn these lessons as Mum watches on close by. Let's get through the Tambuti thicket here. It has been a marvellous morning, folks. It has indeed. I don't know if we're going to be able to get back in there, though. It is getting a little bit thick, and the branches are closing in on every side. Well, see if we can spot them again, Craigo. No. There she's moving. Just disappearing into the thickets. In the drainage line. Well, what a fantastic morning, folks, it's been. All of the cats have come out to say good morning, and thank you for joining us. From our side, it's been sensational. We'll see you again this afternoon. Have a beautiful day.